Hello, I'm Amy Lemire. The following video is a portion of a paid presentation I delivered called Finding More Joy in Your Journey at a Center for Spiritual Living. The content is based on my personal stories, my life experiences, but also on a course I am certified to teach called Habit Finder, which is based on 6 key thought habits, one of them being finding more joy in your journey. The audience are adults that are looking for more motivation, inspiration, fulfillment, and life happiness, but often find that daily life and stress can keep us stuck. So what I'm going to share with you is a culmination of some of the teachings of Habit Finder called Joy in the Journey, which is one of the 6 steps of happiness and being the best version of yourself. But the other thing I'll teach you about is how my life experiences and also life experiences of other people I've worked with have gotten me to get back in touch with my joy in the journey. So the first thing that I'd like you to think about, and if you're anybody that has a notebook or wants to take notes, I'm going to follow the acronym BELIEF. Okay, going back to my seminar, LifeSpring, but it's BELIEF. I'm going to follow that as I give these tips. The first thing to think about is beware of boundaries, the cycle of obligation. What are boundaries and what is the cycle of obligation? Now, I remember when I grew up here in St. Louis, I lived in Old Farm Estates, and our house had a fence. It was, a typical fence you see in a subdivision, and I remember that fence was there to, keep dogs out or strangers or other people that might come in. But something that happens with boundaries is we experience trauma. We sometimes start to develop this belief that I need to take care of other people because I feel less than, or I feel like there's something wrong with me. And so if you think about those fences that slowly get collapsed, one of my favorite authors that I follow, and I recommend anybody in this room, if you have an issue with boundaries, to read a really great book called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. He also wrote another really great book called Necessary Endings. And it's really about taking a look and being aware of not just boundaries, but also that cycle of obligation. And how do you know if you're on a cycle of obligation? I'll ask you a simple question. Is there anything in your life right now where you say, I have to, I should, and I must? One example I'll give of that is I have a friend that told me she wanted to release 30 pounds. And her story was, I have to go to the gym, I have to lose this weight, I need to make some big changes, and she was very, very upset and emotional about it because she couldn't get it to happen. And she finally started saying, I get to, I choose to, and I want to. And she started saying, I get to go to the gym, I choose to eat healthy, and I saw her in a webinar like a week or two ago, and she looked different, and she'd already lost about 10 pounds just by changing that to, I get to, I choose to, and I want to about her health choices. The second thing that I'd like you to think about here is that once you own your boundaries, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and your personal power will rise. I can say that from my own personal experience. Because when you own your boundaries, you get to live life on your own terms versus somebody else's agenda. And ask yourself this, is it a job? Is it a habit? Is it a relationship? Is there something that you might be going through right now that maybe you could start saying, I get to, I choose to, and I want to, and maybe that job, the relationship, or whatever it might be, isn't part of your I get to, I choose to, I want to anymore. The second part of getting joy in your journey is to eliminate expectations. Expectations in my course are the number one killer of joy in the journey. And what is an expectation? That's when I say something like, my life looks like this, but it really should look like that instead. Now, I remember this. When I first moved back to St. Louis, I had this most amazing house in Chicago, 3,300 square feet, beautiful new construction, vaulted ceilings, looked out into this really amazing wetland, freshly painted, brand new furniture. And then I moved back to St. Louis, and I rented a house that was built in 1967, 1,500 square feet. And I would sit there in judgment about it. But then I stopped myself. I started taking on a new habit. I got a gratitude journal. And what I would do is every day I would write down at least 10 things I'm grateful for. And I did that this morning. I make it a practice every day. Even if I forget in the morning, I do it sometime in the day. But I started to appreciate. I started to exchange those expectations for appreciation. And when I did that, everything started changing. I began to appreciate, I finally made my dream come true moving back to St. Louis. I love Chicago. Anybody out there that's from Chicago, it will always be my second home. But I felt a calling to come back here. And once I started doing that more and more frequently, I began to really appreciate so much more. And the other thing I think that holds us back with joy in the journey is we look at stuff. We look at our cars, our houses, our clothes, and we think that's what's going to make us happy. I remember being in sales all those years, and I spent probably too many years to count, but about 27 years in sales. And, I had my nails done. I always had my hair done. I drove the company car. Everything on the outside was perfect. But on the inside, I would still think about the sale I lost last week or an argument I had with somebody spinning around in my head like a CD. So really start being aware of, am I putting unrealistic expectations on myself that are holding back my personal happiness? Let go of secrets. What are your secrets? Secrets are the things that we do that we don't want other people to know about. It's the things that we wouldn't want to see on the front page of the newspaper.